Hey there, I'm Bonnie from Vonboo Furniture Designs, and I thought it might be a really nice idea to introduce myself. Firstly, I want to say that I'm truly humbled and absolutely thrilled and excited to have been chosen to be one of the Masters of Furniture Art by Emma, who runs all the platforms of Furniture Painters Unite. So I'll try and keep this short. My real name is Siobhan Smith. I was christened Siobhan Thompson, but I'm Siobhan Smith because I am married to Mike Smith, and I have two beautiful grown-up teenage boys who are in university at the moment, and we live in Brisbane, Queensland, Australia. I also have two gorgeous little cavaliers, which you may see running around on occasion. They always photobomb my videos. They're my little shed buddies. Don't know where they are at the moment. Oh, they're asleep. Here's Georgie, and oh my God, he's got some gold foil on his nose. Did you know you got some gold foil on your nose? Hey, Ari. Hey, Ari. What you doing? So my creative journey probably happened 30 so years ago. My mother was a textile teacher. My dad was always an artist. He was a sketcher, an oil painter, a watercolor painter. But unfortunately, I didn't inherit his fine brush skills, although I am working on it. So I've always dabbled in some sort of art and craft. But then I was a nurse for 30 years, a pediatric nurse. I worked in intensive care and I worked in emergency room. And as much as I loved it, it was incredibly stressful. So I would always find escape and therapy in doing some sort of craft. And I think a lot of people can relate to that. After my father died, I really wanted to move out of nursing. It was just really stressful, and I thought life is too short. And fortunately, coincidentally, at the same time, a good friend of mine opened up a shop, and she was a stocks for any sign chalk paint, and I'd never used it before. So guess what? I started using Anisane chalk paint, and it didn't stop there because I'd see all these fabulous pieces of furniture with these gorgeous images on them. Some of them were hand painted, and it's like, I don't want to go there. But I taught myself how to decoupage, and I literally started with paper napkins, and then, did this wallpaper and posters, and then I discovered Mint by Michelle decoupage paper. With Michelle's decoupage papers, you could create these beautiful pieces of furniture art that actually look hand painted, and if the paper's not large enough for your piece, they are so easy to extend. So in future videos, I'm going to show you how to extend the decoupage paper to look like a piece of furniture art. But what I thought I'd do first in one of my first videos is just show you the basics of my style of decoupage paper. I will be using Mint by Michelle decoupage paper. I suppose I should tell you that I'm actually Australian ambassador for Mint by Michelle, and I have been for the last 2 years. And over this time, I have really developed a technique for getting the paper on, and that's what I want to show you. So what I'm going to do today is nothing too technical. I've got this 40 centimeter round, actually it's 450 millimeters round, and this is the perfect size to put an A1 size decoupage paper on without having to do any blending. So that's what we're going to do first. We're going to focus on getting the paper on, and then in my next video we're going to do a similar project but with an A3, and I'll just show you one particular option for the A3. This paper is called Sepia Tree, and as you can see, if we put the A3 size against a board like this, we need to blend in these sides. So what we'll do in the next video is I'll show you how to blend the sides. But in the first video, we're going to get an A1 size decoupage paper on. We're going to start from the beginning. I'm going to show you all the tools that I need. And this is the one. Can you see? Oh, it's not focusing. This is the one we're going to use. It's called Wave of Florals. So welcome back. I've got the board ready, and all I've done, I've taken it out of the plastic and I put some tape around the edge because sometimes I like to have a timber edge after I've put the paper on, because I should say we're going to turn this into a table. And you can either, afterwards, you can paint the edge or you can have a timber edge. So I like to put the tape on, so I've got that option after I've put the decoupage paper on. Okay, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to paint the surface white. Now, why do I do this? And I'll show you after we get it on, because these papers, even though they're super, super strong, they are quite thin. And once you add paste, they become even more translucent. So whatever is underneath, you will see. So maybe you'd like to have a muted image, but I like my colors and images to really be bright and pop out. And the best way to achieve this is to have a white surface. Now, what I'm using today is Mint by Michelle's Mint Grip. It is her primer, but you don't necessarily have to apply a primer. You just need to apply a white paint. And it preferably not a chalk paint, something that has an inbuilt sealer in it, like a mineral paint, because with the chalk paint, unless you're going to seal it first, when you put the chalk paint down, the pasting will reactivate it and it just lifts it up, and then you end up with chalk paint all over your paper. Give it a go and see what it's like. Anyway, I'm just going to turn the camera down so you can see what I'm doing. Get a bit more on that. Doesn't have to be neat. There we go. So we just wait for that to dry. Okay, so we're all dry. So now let's talk about the paper. So Michelle's papers come in these plastic bags that I like to keep, and I'll show you. I ripped this sticky bit off. Get rid of the sticky bit. And this is the A1 size. So it is really quite beautiful. So we just have to decide. I really like this big pink flower here. We have to decide what part of the paper we're going to use. And I think the shapes of the flowers really lends themselves to this circle. So we've got all that lovely colour there. So I want to have some of that flower there coming around, and then some of that flower like that. I think that will be fabulous. And then just let that out, and then we've got some of the greens in there as well. I think that will look pretty amazing. We could even come over this way to put that bit of red in. I like that bit of red. Yes, I think that is good. Right. So once you've decided, the placement of the paper is really important. You need to then find a way to know where it's going to be. And what I usually do is run my fingers around an edge so I know where I'm going to start. Like this. So I've creased that edge up the top, so hopefully that'll stay there, and I'll crease a bit down here. Crease a bit down there. Another thing I should mention that I've discovered about these papers is they are rectangle shape. So you have some designs going landscape and some designs going portrait. And for some reason, the paper likes to go on in portrait mode, like pasting that way, not that way. It goes on easier in portrait mode. So even if my design is landscape, I will put it on this way. That's why you might have seen me tip my furniture on its side and paste down the drawers sideways. The paper likes to go on that way. So with this paper, it doesn't really matter. You can put it on anyhow. Anyway, we're putting it on a round. So we've got our edge there that we liked. We've got that edge there and we've got edge there. I might just put a bit of a crease. Oh no, we wanted that bit of red. Right, got that edge. We've got the bottom edge. Can you hear the rain outside? Very wet. Sometimes the humidity can affect your decoupage because of the moisture in the air. So you need to take that into consideration as well. Sometimes it works in your favour because when it's really, really hot and dry, your paste dries really quickly. And when you get your paste drying too quickly, your paper doesn't necessarily stick to it. So sometimes the humidity is good at keeping your paste a little bit moist. Alright, so you know where the placement is now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut off some excess because it'll just be flapping around. And the beauty of this paper is I can keep the rest of it for another project. So I'm just going to cut this bottom bit off. And I might come around here like that. Come around here because all of this excess is just going to be flapping around in the way. Just get my placement right again. Just getting rid of all of that excess that we don't need. But keep your big bits for other projects. Right, now what do I use? My tools. We definitely need a brush. And I always use a little brush, not a really big fat one. This one's 25 ml, I think. And this is just a Bunnings cheap one. I don't use my good brushes for pasting. Next thing we're going to use is the paste. Now whatever paste you choose will determine how well your paper goes on. If it's too thick and gluggy, it will really saturate your paper, which means that it's likely to break down and tear. So what I've been using for quite a while now, and Michelle has now put out her own top coat, is this is Mint Finish Shine, and she also has Mint Finish Matte. But it really doesn't matter which one you use for doing the pasting. Now the reason why I like to use top coat is because it's quite thin. It's quite thin and it dries at a good rate. You don't want it to dry too quickly, because if it dries too quickly, it'll dry before the paper has time to stick, and that's when you're going to get air bubbles. If it dries too slowly, it will saturate your paper, and that's when you're going to get a lot of wrinkles, a lot of creases, and it may tear. But hopefully I do get some tears and I can show you how to fix them. And maybe even if I get some air bubbles, I can show you how to fix them as well. My other tools, my absolute go-to is my felt applicator. Some people call them vinyl squeegees. These were actually originally created to put on window, you know, that the stuff you put on windows. The word's just gone out of my head. And to put on screens, on phone screen covers, because it helps to push the air bubbles out. And I just thought, when I saw this, I thought I could use this technique for this, and it has just been a game changer. Now, the other thing I use is, this is the plastic bag that the paper came out of, and even though we've got this wonderful tool and it helps to push out all the wrinkles and creases, I do get a little bit rough, and this plastic protects the paper from the squeegee. I'm cutting the bag in half, because if I get paste all over it, I like to use a clean one then. So, okay, so I've got 2 bits of plastic, I've got my squeegee, I've got my paste, and I've got my brush. The other thing you may like to use is some water spray. I don't always use the water spray if I'm only pasting onto a flat surface. It's really good to use if you're going over undulating surfaces, textured surfaces, because it allows the paper to stretch a little bit by maintaining its strength. So I usually gauge if I'm halfway through and it's pulling at the sides a little bit, because remember, these sides here won't be pasted. This bit will be pasted, so I'm stretching that little bit. These sides won't be pasted, and if you've ever done a project like this, you might notice that the sides get a bit tight because they're not pasted, and it starts to like distort your image. I find if you give the sides a little bit of a spray, then it'll all stretch out nicely. Okay, so we'll keep that on standby for just in case. So then, I hope I've got you in a good enough position so you can see what I'm doing. Maybe we'll come a bit higher. I'll turn you down a bit. No, too much. Okay, that should be good. I'll keep an eye on that to make sure you can actually see what I'm doing. Right, so we've got our placement. We'll find our placement again. We've got our crease over there, crease over there, crease there, and our crease at the bottom. Alright, so this is what I do. I know we're going to go over just a little bit. So we've found our wonderful placement. I want that to be up there a little bit. Right, we've found our placement, got the image where we want it. And because we don't want to lift the whole thing off again to put the paste on, because we found our placement, I usually, with my left hand, I just hold it and I flick this back. And with the paste, I'm just going to put just like a couple of inches up the top, just so we can secure it into place. So I get my squeegee, I push this back, and I'm going to gently just do that. Carefully let go of that. Now I can grab my plastic and I'm just, and already you can see there's tiny little wrinkles there. Tiny little wrinkles, but no creases. Now the tiny wrinkles is a fact of life. Don't panic, because it is literally the paper reacting to the water-based glue. Now I don't like to use oil-based glue because they're sticky and disgusting, and they actually end up tearing the paper. They're just really gluggy. I don't like them. But So we've got our water-based product, and there are some tiny, I mean literally tiny, little wrinkles happening there. Don't worry, once the paper is 100% dry, they will come out. Okay, so we've got that secure, we're happy with that. We're now going to just lift it up. So we're lifting up to where we pasted it. So I'm going to, before it's stuck too much, I'm just going to lift it just a couple of mil into where I pasted it before. And that'll stop or prevent me creating an air trap bubble in there. I'm pasting over where I pasted before. So we're just doing it again, doing the same thing, just a couple of inches at a time. And we'll pull it back down, sort of stretching it into place. And now, I'm going to start from the middle. I'm starting from the middle and I'm going out like that. Starting from the middle and I'm pushing all of that out. Pushing, 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 like that. You can use your fingers as well, with the plastic under your fingers. Okay, that is looking really good so far. Okay, and you might notice there is the fold from where the paper was folded up in the plastic. That will all come out. You don't need to pre-iron your paper or anything like that. So I'm lifting up just a bit and pasting a little bit more. And it doesn't matter if I'm doing a small project or a large project, I use this gradual process every time. Okay, so I'm just stretching it out, going down the center, out to the sides, down around the edges with my fingers, out to the sides. Lift that up there a bit. And if you do see any crease forming, you can use this to like push, 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 push. But you have to have your plastic. You must have your plastic first. Now it's at this stage I usually suss whether I'm going to need to spray or not. And it is starting to distort just a little bit. So I'm going to give it just a really, really super fine spray. Super fine spray. And what the spraying does, or the misting, it relaxes the fibres in the paper. So the paper will actually stretch a bit. You'll be surprised. So I'm actually going to hold that as I'm coming down, out to the side. Holding it. There, it's nearly on. So, but just see how I'm taking my time. I'm not whacking all the paste on at once. I'm just doing sections. This is the secret. Just do sections and you'll be happy. Happy, happy, happy. Okay. Pulling it a bit tight. I'm going to hold that as I'm going down like that, going out to the side, using my fingers along the edge to make sure that edge is pasted. My head's in the way, sorry. Right, now we just have that last bit to do. Last bit. Just this last bit. Just make sure you lift it up where there's no paste. And we'll just finish it off here. Okay, still going to give that a little bit of a stretch out to the side like that. Edge with my finger. There. Wow. Now I'm just going to go around the edges, make sure the edges are all down. But if they're not down, you can always go back and paste the edges. That's not a problem. And look, I didn't get any air bubbles to show you. And I didn't get any tears. But most of my large projects, I will get some tears. But I'm never worried because I use a little brush and I use some mineral paint and I just touch up all the colours. And you would never know. Never know. All right. That has gone on so beautifully. I'll pick this up and I'll show you. Can you see? This is going to be so pretty. Look at those colours. All right. So now we just need to dry it. Wait for it to dry. Or what I do is I use my hot air gun. So I'm going to dry it and then I'll show you the next stage. Okay, she's all dry. So next we're going to do, now if you want to be super duper clever, you can go around and decoupage these bits around the edges. You will have to do some nip and tucks to navigate that edge. But if you're clever, you could absolutely positively do that. But we're not doing that today. Maybe another time. So, we're going to sand these edges off. And I've just got a little sander with some 120 on it. And I'm with a down motion. That's good. Right, I'm happy with that. So now I'm going to seal it. Okay, this is the sealer I like to use. I do believe it's only available in Australia, but you can find something similar where you are from a hardware store. This is a British Paints one. It's quick, dry, clear, and I love it because it is non-yellowing. It is non-yellowing. So if you get this on your paint, it won't go yellow. Won't change the colour at all. So I have got a mask on. I'm going to hold it up so the dust doesn't get into it. I usually do this outside, but it's raining. So just going to give it a quick spray. I can do another seal as well, but first I'm going to tell you, take this off, why I like to use, where am I? Let's just bring up a bit here. Why I like to use a spray sealer. Now there's a couple of reasons. we've got this beautiful flat surface. We've created this beautiful crease-free, wrinkle-free, bubble-free surface. And if I were to go back with my water-based sealer, which you're very welcome to do, it's highly likely it'll start wrinkling again. This is just the nature of paper. Water-based product, paper, reaction. It just likes to swell, but saying that once it's completely dry, it will all go back down nice and flat again. To save any of that heartache, I like to use a spray varnish because it's not water-based. So I'll give it a quick seal, and as you can see, there's been absolutely no reaction. I use a satin, so once it's dry, it's not a hugely glossy surface. So I do give it a couple of coats with this. The other reason is when I'm doing a piece that is requiring some extension, some blending, I seal it, and when we get to this stage in another video, you'll see that I blend the paint into or onto the paper. Now sometimes you don't like what you've done, or you put too much paint on, or you've put a bit of paint on where it shouldn't be. If you've sealed it, you can use a cloth to wipe it off or to dab it off. If you haven't sealed the paper before you put paint on it, it just absorbs the paint and it's super hard for it to get off. So I always seal with a varnish before I do any painting or blending. And then of course I do another coat all over the top once I've done all that. So that is that. So we'll wait for that to dry before we go on to the next stage. So now I'm just going to remove all the tape. If I find the end, here we go. The sanding should have pushed it away from the paper, so it shouldn't lift the paper. Yeah, it's a little bit rough around that edge, and this edge is a bit rough. So what I'm going to do now is just sand around that edge just to make it nice and smooth. And I quite like the look of the timber edge. So what I'm going to do next, oh, and I should say, this would look fabulous with resin on it. And maybe in another video, I can show you how to do a resin pour. There. Beautiful. What do you think? So I'm going to give her another spray now. I'm going to spray those sides. Bit of rough there still. I'm getting rid of any potential roughness where it may cause the paper to lift up. So even though we're spray sealing it, if you choose to do a resin pour over the top, you can still absolutely do that. I always seal the paper before I do that. Oh, I think I got that all over my glasses. Luckily I had my mask on. That is beautiful. You can see the sides have all got the sealer on there. Could probably do with another layer, but we will wait for it to dry. And then you've got a gorgeous tabletop. Hey, it's actually the next day now, because I had to wait for my legs to arrive. Good old Amazon. But I had to wait till they arrived today, so now we can finish this. So because I've left it overnight, can you see that lovely smooth sheen? I've given it 2 more sprays of the varnish. Now that varnish is oil based, so it does create a lovely protection. And like I said before, you can go and do a resin pour, and I might do that at some stage, but that's not what we're doing today. So what I am going to show you is how I put the legs on, and then we'll be done. So this part is super simple if you're familiar with using power drill. So this is the bottom of the tabletop, and what I've actually done, because we're going to put 3 legs on, is I've found even thirds. I've put a little mark there. And then you just, I like to use my eye. I use my eye to put it straight. Now it did come with these lovely solid screws, but they are too long for my table. So you have to take note of that, or you end up with screws coming through the top of your table. So I'm just using some screws out of my stash, and I'm just very carefully and then the pack comes with these here we go. Ta-da! Let me show you better. Hey Georgie, what do you think? Hey, what do you think? You're happy? You like? Hey, you like? I think it's beautiful. It would so suit a resin top, and maybe I might have to do that. But I think this has turned out as a really, really, really cute side table that you could put anything on there now. Anything on there. It's lovely and protected. And so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some nice photos. I really hope you've enjoyed this video, and this is just one of hopefully many more. Please like and share and subscribe to Furniture Painters Unite, and check out my videos on Vonboo furniture designs. Thanks for watching.